So, back when I started working on this video, it was just to say a few nice things about my favorite games that I played in 2023. But while I'd love to express my thoughts on the surprisingly excellent Mega Man Legends 2, and perhaps introduce new would-be fans to the criminally underrated Super Adventure Island 2, and of course, once again summarize why I love the Yakuza / Like a Dragon series so much, I instead found myself with so much more to say about just one game, that of course being the best new game I played in all of 2023, the Resident Evil 4 Remake. So strap on in, muchacho, as I gush about RE4 in an unplanned, unorganized, incoherent stream of consciousness.
In a remote village where every door is double-hinged.
The original RE4 is one of my most replayed games ever. When I played it back on the GameCube, it was unlike anything I've ever played before. That first playthrough truly felt like an adventure. But when I beat the game and the feeling of novelty reached its limit, a new type of magic took its place. After beating the game, you unlock a special side campaign as well as the fun arcade-like Mercenaries mode. While extremely addictive and fun on their own, these side modes exist to reward the player with new weapons and outfits and whatnot that can be used on a subsequent playthrough of the main game. So now we have this gameplay loop of playing the entire game, doing new stuff, getting rewarded, playing the game again with your rewards, and it is just so good. By the time I got bored of playing both the GameCube and Wii versions of the game inside out, I had practically memorized every area, every enemy placement, every line of dialogue.
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
This game was burned into my very core. So when they remade RE2 and 3, and the rumblings of a 4 remake began, I was apprehensive to say the least. I didn't want a remake. I felt the original game not only held up to modern standards, but also was just perfect. And how can you improve upon perfection? Give it a new coat of paint? Sure, that would be a nice treat, but we all knew if they were gonna remake the game, they were gonna go all out, just like they did with their prior remakes. A lot of things were gonna be changed, and I didn't want it. I didn't need it. Resident Evil 4 didn't need it.
No thanks, bro.
Inevitably, Resident Evil 4 Remake finally happened. I'm not gonna lie, despite all my misgivings, the trailers had me hyped. It looked like somehow they might be doing for RE4 what they did for RE2 in its remake. But you can never be too sure until you get the game in your hands. Then came the demo, and wow! The way they perfectly recreated that first village fight from the original game, making me feel like I was playing RE4 for the first time all over again, was nothing short of miraculous. But wait a minute. Something's missing. Leon, where's everyone going? Where's everyone going, Leon? Leon, where?
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
There it is, right there! It wasn't the trailers that did it, it wasn't the village fight that did it, it was Leon being allowed to say his iconic line that did it. That's when I knew this game was in good hands. That's when I knew that the developers in charge of this remake held the original game in just as high regard as I do. And then the game finally released, and it was glorious. Every aspect of the gameplay was tweaked over the original, every mechanic was expanded upon. Remember the knife from the original? Now there's a whole knife system, with multiple knives, unlockable knives, knife fights, knife parries, stealthy, knifey, sneaky strikies. No more tank controls means Leon's movement is smooth and buttery like a baby hippo's fat little dumper. The shooting gallery has been expanded, the merchant does a bunch more stuff now, there's more intricacies to the treasure system, you can even craft ammo, the inventory can be auto-sorted, the attaché case has little keychains of models from the original game that grant you little gameplay boosts when you attach them and they go jiggle-jangle on the inventory screen. More stuff, more expansions, stuff being expanded, oh my god! The characters are expanded upon, Luis gets so much more screen time and he's such a cool dude now.
Sancho Panza, let us rescue the Princess Dulcinea.
You're gonna hurt yourself.
Leon even pronounces his name correctly in this game. Krauser makes references to the Dark Side Chronicles. Here's a fun fact. Nobody has even played the Dark Side Chronicles. I'm the only one. It sold one copy. It was me who bought it. It's like the developers did it for me. And then there's the delicious, the delectable, the unlockables. That which caused me to play the original game so many times. We've got more costumes, more apparel, and most importantly, more shooters. I've said it countless times and I'll keep on saying it. There are few things more satisfying than playing RE4 on a harder difficulty, overcoming so many obstacles, so many enemies out to myrtleize you in the most gruesome fashion, only to finally destroy that final boss, watch those credits roll, and then do it all over again on easy mode with a fully maxed out Chicago typewriter with infinite ammo unlocked, with a crowd obliterating infinite rocket lawn chair on your side for good measure. All those palm sweat-inducing battles against crowds of evil residents you put so much effort into clearing are now explosive romps as you everyone and everything into oblivion! All the joy of the original game is back in full force, expanded upon, tweaked, modernized, and made so gosh dang enjoyable. But you know what it doesn't do? It doesn't improve upon the original. Yes, it expands on so much, it tweaks and modernizes so many things, but nothing, aside from maybe the graphics, is necessarily made better. And nothing is really made worse either. What I'm trying to say is that the developer somehow sidestepped the whole almost impossible task of trying to make a better version of RE4 when RE4 is still already so obscenely good. Rather than trying to replace RE4, they made an all-new version of RE4 that is just as good as the original RE4 in many of the same ways, but also in many of its own ways. This is like an alternate reality version of Resident Evil 4. It doesn't superannuate the original, but lives alongside it. Which version of RE4 should you play? Both. The answer is both. You've only played the remake, so should you play the original? Absolutely. This isn't a remaster. This isn't a definitive edition. This is an all-new, incredible experience, deeply and intimately inspired by the original RE4, but it in no way kicks the original off its throne. Rather, it scoots another big fancy chair right next to it and pops a squat right next to Daddy. I know all of this could just as easily be said about the Resident Evil 2 remake, but that doesn't make what they achieved with the RE4 remake any less impressive. The original RE2 is a beloved game considered by a great many people to be the best in the series, but that game has aged. With its pixelated backgrounds, awkward tank controls mixed with fixed camera angles, and an overabundance of loading screens, the game, as good and beloved as it is, was ripe for a modernization. Fast forward to today, and just like with RE4, we now have two perfectly viable versions of RE2. The remake is more modern and fancy schmancy and did a great service to the legacy of the original, but the original still very much stands on its own merits and should absolutely be played. I'm not trying to diminish the hard work and the obvious talent that went into what the developers accomplished with their Resident Evil 2 remake, but with a game as antiquated as the original RE2, as long as it didn't royally screw up, the RE2 remake was always going to be a relatively easier task. They basically had to take a game that's very old-fashioned in its design and rebuild it to fit a more contemporary mold. The difference here is that Resident Evil 4, while it too has undoubtedly done its fair share of aging, still holds up very well against its modern ilk. RE4 completely revolutionized third-person shooters for years to come, to the point where even modern zoomer shooters like Fortnite and the like still have some of Grandpappy RE4's DNA floating through their bloodstream. And from this stems my initial apprehension. RE4 didn't need nearly as much overhauling to remake, so I wondered, what was the point of remaking it in the first place when it could never be as grand of a reimagining as the remakes of the older games were? And yet, they did the impossible. As a hardcore Resident Evil 4 fan, this remake is a dream come true. This is the new platinum standard that all video game remakes should live up to. Are there things I was dissatisfied with? Definitely, but that didn't stop me from replaying the game again and again and again and again, just like I did all the way back on the GameCube and the Wii. Now I patiently wait for their as of yet unannounced but nonetheless inevitable remake of Resident Evil 5. I have no more apprehensions, no more misplaced unease. With the RE2 and even the RE3 remake, they show that they know what makes classic Resident Evil what it is, and how to tap into their legacy to make something that can still spark awe in players today. With the RE4 remake, they left no more room for doubt that these developers have an intricate understanding and deep respect for the classics in their care, as well as their fans. If history is anything to go by, I think I can more or less rest assured that the eventual Resident Evil 5 remake is going to be phenomenal. Unless, of course, they get rid of boulder punching, in which case I'm deleting this video. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go finish up this next playthrough. I'm tenderizing the meat.